Hello everybody, my name is Bill. Welcome back to the NCAA Football 2007 Dynasty Mode Explanations. As we continue our journey out west, we just went to the Mountain West. Now we are in the Pac-10, in which there are 10 teams, conveniently enough, unlike the Big Ten, which has 11. Well, back then they had 11, nowadays they got 16, so make up your mind. Are you the Big 10, Big 11, Big 16? What? Anyways, Pac-10, nowadays known as Pac-12, but that's a story for another time. I will I've went ahead and evaluated all of these teams, did what they're great at, what they need to improve. You know how this goes from all the other ones. After this, we only have the SEC, the Sun Belt, and the WAC left. So we're almost done with this part. Thank God, because it's been going on for the past like 2 months. So we are starting off with this, with number 15, Oregon, which, you know, if you remember from all the way back at the ACC videos, Arizona State's above Oregon. And, you know, that's probably because they played a better schedule, something like that. Some sort of thing I don't fully understand. But Oregon went 10-3. Their best win came in week 6 at Arizona State, 39-34. And the worst loss, in my opinion, came in week 12 at USC, 31-16. And they're one of the best teams in this dynasty right now. I mean, you see they're a 5-star school, 4-star academic. But they are great on offense, scoring, defense scoring, getting interceptions, sacks, getting third down conversions, and forcing turnovers in general. But the only improvement I see for them is penalty yards. The Ducks were very impressive this year. After coming so close last year and winning the Pac-10, losing out to Arizona State, this year they exercised their demons and beat them in a Week 6 matchup. The USC matchup scared the people of Eugene, Oregon, but they held on. They had the second best or best in offense and defense, getting 420 yards per game. That was second best. 172.9 of them to the ground. That was the best, I want to say. Scoring 36.1 points per game. That was second best. Allowing 274.1 yards per game. 179.3 per game through the air. Those are both second best. And 94.7 yards per game on the ground, allowing a mere 17.9 points per game. They had 28 interceptions, 33 sacks, and went 69 for 150 for a 46% third down conversion rate. They just need to calm down with the penalty yards. They had 776 yards in penalties this year. Calm that down, and we might be seeing repeat champs for Chip Kelly. Now we go from Chip Kelly, a guy who became famous for being a college coach, tried the NFL and failed miserably, to a guy who had some success as an NFL head coach, was an ESPN analyst, and now is a head coach in the college ranks himself, Herm Edwards at Arizona State. They also went 10-3, 8-1 conference play, but unlike the whole thing with the Big Ten and that I did like weeks ago, where Penn State and Wisconsin never played each other, at least Oregon and Arizona State play each other, so we at least have a determined champion. They went 10-3. Their best win came in Week 8 at USC, 37-30, and they won that game with a backup quarterback. A backup quarterback. I think their starter was suspended. Actually, I think they won with the third stringer, because I think the starter was injured, the backup was suspended. So they had to trust their third string quarterback, and he won the game for them. Their worst loss, again, week 6 against Oregon. Their grades basically almost like Oregon. Offense, scoring, defensive scoring, interceptions, and turnovers. They need to improve on third down conversions and not getting the ball up. Because, yeah, you can force all the turnovers you want, but if you turn the ball right back over them, what's it going to do, brother? The Sun Devils were amazing under Herm Edwards. If they had beaten Oregon, they would be celebrating their second championship in a row. They had 422.7 yards per game, better than Oregon. 284.3 passing yards per game, definitely better than the Ducks. 38.7 points per game, better. Allowed 263.3 yards per game, 97.4 yards per game on the ground. Allowed 20.7 points per game, got 24 interceptions, and beat USC with a backup quarterback. Did Oregon even beat USC with their starting quarterback? Nope. So, yeah. They need to lessen the turnovers as they had 34 on offense, which could easily be a difference. They were also the second worst team in the back 10 on third down, going 46 for 137 for a 33% conversion rate. Improve those, and they'll be even more of a team to be fearful for. And now we go to a guy that I put in here as that coach, even though he is a current head coach. Let's continue with the train of NFL head coaches. We go from Chip Kelly, who went to Philadelphia, had some success, then went to San Francisco and failed, to Herm Edwards, who had some success as I think the Chiefs and Jets head coach, to a guy who's the current Seattle Seahawks head coach, and Pete Carroll, and number 21 ranked USC. Finished the year 9-4. Their best win came in Week 12 against Oregon, 31-16, and their worst loss came in Week 8 against Arizona State, 37-30. We've already talked about these matchups already. Because these are basically the three best teams, and they were all entwined in the conference championship. They were great at scoring. One of their improvements, don't run McNair Central, which, depending on what I have available, I may put them back on there again. I don't know. Just depends on how I feel. The Trojans did decently enough for competition in the Pac-10, but they won against McNair Central and got obliterated 251-0. Would have been 252 if the game would have allowed me to kick the extra point at the end. If they hadn't lost to California in Week 13, they would probably be in contention for the Pac-10 championship. They finished with a decent defense though, and if they don't have McNair Central on their schedule, they should be good. Yeah, just to shorten the video a little bit, I'm not going to go through all the stats for some of these teams like I just did with Oregon and Arizona State essentially. I mean, when these two teams face off again next year, it's easily going to be a key game. Don't get me wrong. Without a doubt, it's going to be a key game. And also them against USC. That's also going to be a good key game as well, because these are the three best teams. Who wouldn't want to see a heavyweight fight between the top three teams in the conference? Especially when, you got one guy, Green, he's got 19 interceptions. Like a lot of these guys might be going into the NFL, but they all have talent that can easily back up the guys that were just there. So it's going to be interesting to see and be fun to watch. But now we go to the teams that are there just to at least compete. We'll start off with California. Even though the game just calls them Cal, I prefer to call them California. I think in the college baseball world, they call them California Berkeley. So they go through several different names for them. California went 6-6. Their best win came in Week 13 against USC. necessarily say that was the best one. I just put that down. Let me just fix this. Yes, I know I'm working on the script all in the middle of the video. But if you have seen this series enough, I've done that a couple of times. The best win came in week 13 at USC, 39-34. Another 39-34 score. Funny. The worst loss came the very next week to Stanford, 31-19 in the game. They have great passing offense and they are very disciplined. They just need to improve on the rushing offense. The Golden Bears were okay this year. John Breyer led his team to a 500 record, but were successful through the year. 274.9 passing yards per game is second best in the Pac-10. They have the second least amount of penalties and yards, having 78 penalties for 622 yards. Their defense was mediocre, but training should help that. They should make a bowl game next year, in my opinion. Although, in my opinion, they probably should have made it. If you go back to me just shooting on Ball State for them making the bowl game, you can see why. Now we go to another team in California, team number 3 in California, UCLA. They also went 6-6. Their best win came in week 6 against Stanford, 34-29. And the worst loss came in week 2 against 16th ranked Tennessee, 52-31. They have great rushing offense, scoring defense, and just scoring in general. Their improvement, though, is they need to recover more fumbles. The Bruins had a mediocre year this year, as they only fell 500. A good offense with 164.9 rushing yards per game, along with scoring 30.4 points per game, helped out. They need to recover more fumbles, as they had as many fumble recoveries as San Jose State had wins. Get more fumbles, and we might see a surprise contender next year for the championship. Now we're on team number 4 in Stanford for California. They went 6-7. Their best win came in week 14 at California, 31-19. The worst loss came week 2 because they ended their year with a regular season with a win, but they started off the regular season with a week 2 loss at Oregon, 40-7. They had a great rushing offense and a great defense, and they just need to improve on being disciplined. Stanford did well, making it to a bowl game, but losing to San Diego State. They did it through a tough rushing game at 140.3 yards per game, and only allowing 340.6 yards per game and getting 37 sacks. They need discipline, though, as they had 101 penalties for 910 yards, the most in the nation. Now, for comparison, their wide receiver Brown down there had only 60 catches for 635 yards. Like, how are you going to have more penalty yards than your best receiver has even yards? They almost matched their running back, who had 1,000 yards flat for the year. Calm this down, and they should win a few more games next year. Now let's get out of California, but head back to Arizona, which they finished 5-7. Their best win came week 12 against California, 34-21. The worst loss came in their regular season finale against Arizona State, 36-7. They got a good offense in their discipline. The improvement, though, is passing defense. The Wildcats did well, but not for a 3-star school. Well, they had a great offense and were very disciplined, as they only had 76 penalties for 600 yards. For comparison, Reed had 74 catches for 882 yards. So, yeah, 2 less catches than penalties for the team, but over 200 yards more. That's a bit better right there. They need pass coverage as allowing 253.4 yards per game won't win you many games. Improve that, especially in a pass-happy conference as this, and I say you're good. And we're going to leave Arizona and go back to Oregon. For Oregon State, they finished the year 4-8. 4-8 for Oregon State. What a rhyme. Their best win came in Week 3 against San Diego State when they won 37-26. Their worst loss came in Week 7 against Washington State, 52-17. Because, as you see, Washington State finished with the worst record in the conference. How are you going to let the worst team in the conference beat you that bad? Especially when you beat a top team in San Diego State, the way y'all did. They're great on third down conversions, although they need better offense, better defense, and calm down on the penalty yardage. The Beavers need to improve their team into next season. 9th in offensive yards per game at 344 flat. 9th in defensive yards at 400.2 yards per game. And had 780 penalty yards, which is second worst in the conference. I already told you about which was the worst in the conference, and again, just because I like comparing it, they had 780 penalty yards. Their top receiver had 721 yards. Good old Byram. I wouldn't suggest buying rum, I'd suggest buying Coca-Cola in my opinion. But hey, to each his own. They did well on third down though, going 69 for 156 for 44% conversion rate. Improvements need to be made or else Kevin O'Quinn will lose his job. And now we're going to finish off this in Washington, starting off with Washington. Who went 3-9. Their best win came at Washington State, 38-35. Their worst loss came in Week 10 against Arizona State, 71-14. At least they were kind enough to let you at least get points. They are great at holding on to the ball. But they need offense and defense. The Huskies need to improve a lot for next year. Not a good team on offense, a bad defense, and good on not turning over the ball. In my defense, I was also on the phone with someone, so my mind was kind of more focused on trying to talk with them than on this. So, just for clarification, I'm doing this. See, we don't need Arizona, we need Washington. Yeah, the worst offense in the conference in total yards and offensive yards. Offensive yards is what I mainly base it off of. 268.5 yards per game. Aim 18.9 points per game. Third worst defense at 391.6. Allowing 34.2 points per game. But they at least hold on to the ball well. They don't fumble it at all. Or their only fumble loss was UCLA's only fumble recovery. Hey, they just need to calm down and throw in interceptions though as well. And they should be good. Otherwise, Darius Williamson will easily be in the hot seat for sure. And now let us round out our little discussion of Pac-10 schools with Washington State, who went 2-10. Their best win came in Week 7 against Oregon State, 52-17. And their worst loss came 5 weeks later, at Arizona State, 52-10. Again, at least they allowed you to score points. They're great not throwing interceptions and being gutsy on the fourth down. They just need to improve on defense, getting more turnovers, and third down conversions as well. Excuse me right there. The Cougars did not do that well this year. 2-10 is not pretty, as they ended up being the worst team in the Pac-10. They have a decent offense, but they had the second worst defense in the nation. allowing 473.9 yards per game, allowing 38.6 points per game, worst in the Pac-10. They threw only 10 interceptions, which is very good, compared to only having 19 turnovers, which is second worst in the Pac-10. They need to improve on third down conversions as well, converting only 30% of their conversions. Improve the defense and conversions, and I say they will be a bowl eligible team next year. Now, like I said, we got left the SEC, which will easily be broken down to East and West, the Sun Belt, and the WAC, and then we are finally done with this. But hey, it's fun talking about the Power 5 conferences in a way, because you can easily see in a way, like some of the teams that are good, like Oregon, Arizona State, and USC, and going through and seeing what potential is here, like what teams could beat USC, what teams could beat Arizona State, what teams could beat Oregon. In which next time we get into this, we'll be talking about the SEC and wondering like which teams could beat Florida or Tennessee. I mean, South Carolina looked like they had a good run until after I beat them. Georgia could have been a possibility. I mean, they have been a couple of years. Auburn ran away this year, but could have easily been Arkansas. Alabama had an off year. Mississippi State didn't do all that good. I mean, they did well for a two-star school. LSU, like, they had an off year as well. Ole Miss, like, they could surprise. Yeah, the Power 5 schools, though, like, they're a bit more fun to talk about just because the fact that, they're getting some recruits just because the fact that of conference prestige alone. So it's more fun for me to talk about them than, like, with the Sun Belt. Because you have some of these bad records here. And it's because the fact that they don't have that much talent. Like, look at Louisiana Tech. They went undefeated in their conference. And, I mean, granted, there was some competition in New Mexico State and Boise State. But after that, like, what really do you see for competition, compared to the SEC, where you got Auburn, Arkansas, Florida, Tennessee, all up there in the running, and you have Alabama, Mississippi State, LSU, Ole Miss, South Carolina, Georgia. Like, all those teams could easily be contenders. But anyways, that's it for this video, and I will see you all next time.